So, how many of you have a kind of little routine for your personal prayer time? Place you go, or something you use? Does anyone want to share what they might be? I mean, put your hand up and say, yes, I do. Does anyone want to put their hand up and say, yes, I'd like to share what I do? Anybody? Yeah?
Just kneel at the bed.
Kneel at the bed? A lot of people do that. Kneel at the bedside, perhaps before you go to bed, or maybe the first thing in the morning. Yeah? Something you do, a kind of little ritual or something. Anything else? Yes?
I just sit in the sitting room, but I have a little journal and I write down the people that I'm praying for.
Right.
And then I write down the answers and I can look back and see what's been happening and what God
And write down the way that God has answered those prayers. Right, wow, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Like a bag of bits and pieces that I go through.
A
Like
bag of
photographs or
pieces.
cards from people to remind me of who I'm praying for.
Now, I have to make notes on this because I'm rubbish at personal prayer. I'm here to confess before you and all God's people that if I don't have a thing to do, I won't do it because my mind is all over the place. I never do anything the same way. Also, I'm one of those people who, you know, when somebody creative is leading prayer and they come with a bag of pebbles or some soft fabric. Have you ever done that? And you hold the pebble. I've got to say, people, I've tried hard. I've brought this to the Lord. But when you give me a pebble, nothing spiritual is happening in my head whatsoever. I'm useless at that sort of thing. I'm so glad that I've got brothers and sisters who are good. That's why we need other churches and other people, by the way, so that we get better at things we're not good at and notice there are different ways of approaching the Lord. Well, there are all sorts of disciplines, and as this is the week of prayer of Christian unity, we might remark that perhaps some of the other traditions within the one Church of Jesus Christ are better at this than we are. I think Roman Catholics are better at this sort of thing than we are. They have rituals. The Anglicans have offices. If we kind of note, I mean, I know I might seem a bit high church and do a God collar and all that kind of thing, but I suppose I'm a little bit closer to you guys than perhaps some of the other churches in that sense, in that we don't do a right lot of that. We have kind of open prayer in the way that Neil's just led us as well. But they are really good. I mean, the Roman Catholics have a rosary, don't they? Now, I'm not suggesting you get a rosary or anything like that, but maybe there's something else that can help you to pray. Now, I think this is perhaps more important. I think we kind of shied away from it in churches like ours because we don't want to be seen as being kind of too weird when it comes to the way that we're Christians, do we, as a society. But actually, out there now, people are doing all sorts of meditation and stuff, aren't they? And I think it's come from all sorts of other ideas, and sort of Greek philosophical ideas, and maybe Buddhist ideas and so on, and they're using those. And maybe we need to say, actually, we can kind of dramatise our prayer time too. So just a thought. Now, just because at the time of Jesus, there were different camps within the faith then too. It's not that we just went wrong when we started into churches. There have always been a plurality and diversity within the community of God. And there were two camps at the time of Jesus. There were the Sadducees. They didn't believe in the resurrection. You want to remember who they are. You remember that they are sad, you see, because you've all heard that, because they didn't believe in the resurrection. The cool people, the uber cool one, if the Sadducees were singing the traditional hymns, then the Pharisees, they were singing the brand new worship songs, so they were really cool. And they were avant-garde, and they were progressive in their thinking. And they would use meditative techniques. And that is why, at the start of our series on Paul here in this place, I'm going to start with Ezekiel chapter 1. Because that's obviously where we start, right? So I think I've got a picture. Where is it? Let's have a look. Right, okay, next, have we got my slides, please? Look at me. Pray, people, pray. Pray. All right, whilst we get those, I'm going to talk about, because Ezekiel was a guy who, when we get the reading from Ezekiel, the prophecy of Ezekiel, he's in exile. Remember, in about 586, 587 BC, the people of God were transported from Jerusalem, the place that they loved, and they found themselves in Babylon, where they would write poems that we call the Psalms, one of which says, "How can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land?" And it says the word of the Lord comes to the man Ezekiel. Now, Ezekiel is a Zadokite priest. I know you will be considering that. That means two things. If you're a Zadokite priest, you believe that the worship of God is guaranteed, number one, because of the unbroken line of Davidic kings. That might seem a bit weird, but that's what they thought. And number two, because it was guaranteed, God's promises were guaranteed because of the continuing worship in the temple, the sacrificial temple worship. But Ezekiel is in exile. So guess what? There is no Davidic line of kings. That's the tree of Jesse seems to be cut off to a stump, if you remember that imagery. And there is no temple. So Ezekiel says, literally, how can I worship God here? And it says in Ezekiel 1, he has a vision. And I'm hoping one day we're going to have a picture, because the word of the Lord comes to Ezekiel, and he has this vision of God coming to him on his throne. He's coming soon. And it comes. It would go from Jerusalem, it would go around the ark, and the first ark president said, out of the north it came to Babylon, and Ezekiel has this picture. Now, if you've ever read the book of Ezekiel, and you think, I'm not up to this because there's such strange imagery, I've got to tell you, the writer and scholar Walter Brueggemann, who's an expert in all this stuff, looks at the book of Ezekiel and summing up his whole theology of Ezekiel, he says, the book of Ezekiel is bizarre. It really is weird. If you read it and think, it's a bit bizarre, it really is a bit bizarre. And Ezekiel has this vision of God coming to Ezekiel on his throne. It says there are wheels, and there are wheels within wheels. Do you know the passage? It's coming, it's not that. It's a few to the right. Wheels within wheels, and the wheels have eyes on them, and above it is kind of like a platform. And on the platform, there's the whole dome, which reminds us of the dome of the firmament from Genesis chapter 1. And there at the centre of the platform is a throne, and there, sat on the throne, is, well, Ezekiel says, the appearance of a man. He doesn't want to say this, God, though he knows that who Ezekiel is encountering. So the Pharisees, who are really, really cool and really, really into their Bibles, would use Ezekiel chapter 1 as part of their spiritual discipline, particularly if they were on a journey. Okay, now this is an act of imagination on my part, but I'm going to justify it later, so don't be put off that I'm not getting this from the Bible. But just imagine that there is a young Pharisee on a business trip. He's been sent to do a particular job. And he's on, can we just go a few to the right? That's the reading. Keep going. Go. Whoop. Keep going. It's about 10 to the right. Yeah. There's the story. Down. That's the reading we just had. Keep going. Yeah. Next. There's the exile, next one. And there's the map, that's where they ended up. So that's where Ezekiel is right now, he's on the right. And here's the vision. Here's the vision that he has. And there you can see the wheels, and the wheels that are within wheels, and the eyes on it, and the cherubim, the seraphim, the platform, and the dome of the firmament, and then the throne, and then the image of a man. So this young Pharisee, who is avant-garde in using modern spiritual disciplines, uses this vision of Ezekiel, and would have perhaps a text before him. Perhaps he knows it off by heart. And he's on a journey, and there's a steady, rhythmic clip-clop of the horse that he's riding. And what they would hope to do is that if they really focused on God, if they really centered on God, if they excluded everything else, but centering their minds prayerfully on God's presence in their lives, then they would progressively get further and further into the vision. And so this Pharisee, we imagine, has been doing this for a number of years, and before, he's only got as far as the wheels within wheels, and then sometimes when his heart is really quiet, then maybe he's got a bit further. But this time, he is progressing in his heart's kind of mind's eye kind of thing, and he's getting further, and he glimpses the wheels within the wheels. And then as the rhythmic click-clop of the horses continues, he realises he can see the firmament. And then coming in, crystallising into his view, comes an image of the throne. And that's as far as he's ever got. But on this day, slowly those final verses of Ezekiel chapter 1 come into sort of focus. And it says, in Ezekiel 1. Like the bow in a cloud on a rainy day, such was the appearance of the splendour all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. When I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard the voice of someone speaking, and this Pharisee is getting there, and the image is starting to form of the man on the throne, and he hears the voice from heaven, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And of course, Saul falls to his knees because he realises, to his shock, to his horror, perhaps, that the God that he's been seeking all his life has met with him in that vision. And that God that he's been seeking all his life and seeking to serve all his life, and indeed he's going to Damascus to serve, is none other than Jesus of Nazareth. Now that's an act of imagination on my part, but Paul will go on to say in his writings that Jesus appeared to me, last of all, Jesus appeared to me, that he came in great glory and great light. He's blinded by that vision. But more importantly, and this is where I get back to what I think is based on the Bible, and that is that for Saul, who becomes Paul, it is not so much that he's been converted from one religion to another, but that rather he has been transformed by this same God that has met him on the Damascus road. I wonder if we can go another slide to the right. And another one. It's not so much that God has kind of transformed him, but rather that all the promises of this God that he's known all his life have been rolled up in this Jesus and have scattered the skittles of his kind of understanding, far away. It's like, boom! It's not so much conversion as a revolution that's going on with St. Paul, because it's really critical as we embark on a series about Paul that we understand that the God of which Paul talks about through all of his teachings and all of his writings are about Israel's God. This is Israel's God. We know that he's going to speak into a Greek culture, but he will speak of Israel's God. If you ask of Paul, I won't use an act of imagination, which all preaching is, by the way, and that's the tradition of the prophets. But when we ask the question, was the teaching and preaching of Paul Bible-based? I think the answer is sometimes. It depends who he's speaking to. If he's speaking in the synagogue, which he often does, then yes, he talks about the Old Testament a lot. If on the other hand, as he is in Acts 17, he's on Mars Hill, the Areopagus, and he's talking to Greek philosophers, he uses their poetry and their language in order to talk about Israel's God. And this is really important for us to get. It is not that we talk about Greek gods in kind of Christian terms. It is rather that we take the God who is revealed through the whole of Scripture, and find ways of talking about this God of Israel in our contemporary culture. And that's what I believe Paul does. And we need to understand Paul's teaching in those terms. Paul is not going to abandon anything. What is happening to Paul is not of Paul's doing. That's why I think it's so important we remember, for instance, when we're being baptised. And I'll have a discussion with somebody who wants to get baptised as an adult, and we do that as well. But when they talk about it's something that I want to do, I kind of have to ask, is this something that you are doing? Or is it something that God has already done to which you are responding? And that's what is going on in Paul, I think. Paul is being drawn on into that new work and that new understanding of who God is. It's about Israel's Messiah and not, therefore, some Greek God. And I think that's really important as we seek to share our faith, actually. And we seek to understand the way that God works in our lives and in the world. Because I think some of us so often do not have the God of Israel in mind. We have some Greek God in mind. Let me show you another picture. Next one. This is a scene from, do you know the movie? Jason and the Argonauts. And there we have, on the right, that's supposed to be Zeus. And this is Zeus's daughter. I don't know it. Who is it? Hera or somebody? I don't know. And these figures here, it's like a chessboard, and they've got like Jason and the Argo, which is the boat, and they're moving them around, and they're kind of like playing with them like a game of chess. Now, I think some of us, and if not us, people we're trying to witness to out in our community, have the image of a Greek god who is like a god who is somewhere else, who is pulling the levers. And one of the levers has the weather. Lord, can we have a sunny day? And God said, okay, ka-chunk. And we have a sunny day. That God works in that way. That God has to be bartered with and appeased. I don't think that's the image of God that we're given throughout the whole story of God. I think rather, we imagine, I've probably done it actually, who has gone to Edinburgh Square and hopes this, next slide please, that if we pray to God, the God who has the big Edinburgh Square chessboard will move a car out the parking space so that I can go and park my car and say, yes, God has answered my prayer. Now, I believe that God can work like that, but I don't think actually that's the grounding of our understanding, that this is a God who is pulling levers somewhere else for which we are puppets. No, our God is the God of Paul, is the God of Israel. And next slide, please. The God of Israel is a God, and that's Yahweh. You're here by here from right to left in Hebrew, the name of God. The God who is a God of promise, a God who is a God of deliverance. A God who is a God of sustenance. A God who has created the whole of the world. And whereas other faiths and other religions say, well, the reason why there are problems in the world is because the gods have fallen out and you have to pray to the gods and you have to sacrifice to the gods in order to appease them. This story says no. That God made the earth and everything in it. We had Psalm 8. Perfect. The whole world is the Lord's, and Genesis 1 says that God made everything, and everything that God makes is good, people. And if we want to understand what's wrong in the world, it says this particular strange faith of which we are a part. If you want to understand where the problems are, it's because human beings have turned away from that initial prototype of humanity that we have in Genesis chapter 1 and in Genesis chapter 2. You agree? The God that we worship is a God of promise. A God who made promises to Abraham and to Sarah and fulfilled those promises when it seemed too late for them to be made true. The story is retold through Isaac and Jacob and their wives. And we talk about them being the stories of the fathers, the patriarchal stories, but they're not, because there are some very strong women in those stories as well, men and women, receiving from God's promise when it seemed too late for God to come good on his promise. And then later in the stories of deliverance, when God's people are slaves in Egypt, or they're in exile in Babylon, or they're slaves to sin, and God acts powerfully to deliver them from Egypt, to deliver them from captivity in Babylon, and to deliver us from the captivity of death in Jesus Christ and his cross and resurrection. Amen. Amen. A God of promise, a God of deliverance, a God of sustenance, who feeds the people, God's people in the desert when there seemed no hope of food and sustenance. The God who feeds his people and provides resources for them to worship and be faithful in Babylon. The God who sends his Holy Spirit upon us, that we might be empowered to live and work to his praise and to his glory as the Spirit dances in our world and comes within our lives. This is the God of which we proclaim, the God that we see in Jesus. Now, if you're good evangelical types, like I think you all are, and like I am too, in a way, kind of thing, then it's all about Jesus, it's all about his word. But yes, look, this Jesus is not to be imaged as being some sort of Greek god or Buddhist god. This Jesus is the God of Israel, and that, I don't know whether Paul was using that meditation or not. What I do know was that it was St. Paul's profound conviction that he had met in Jesus Christ, that same God who had created the heavens and the earth and called all people to share in the ongoing creation of the world. That's why Paul talks about, in that creation language, he talks about how in the resurrection of Jesus that there's been a new creation that's begun. on a new day, on the first day of the week, as it says in John's Gospel, when the resurrection takes place. The start of a brand new week. We're supposed to be thinking about first creation and new creations. And you and I are called to be a part of that. You know, we're always talking in our culture about things which are new and young and youth and fashion and all that sort of thing. That word in Greek is neos. But when Paul talks about newness, very often he's using the word kainos. And kainos is a sort of renewal and a kind of a new thing within us. And the important thing about that sort of newness is not how young or old we are, or whether we're new to the faith, or a bit more long in the tooth in the faith. The question of newness and revival and fidelity is about how close are we now in our lives and in our worship to the God revealed to us in Jesus Christ. I pray that we will get a sense of being caught up, a sense that God is calling us to participate. Not that we've got to pray to God, to appease God, to keep God happy, but that God is calling us, like St. Paul, to participate. A God whose initial blueprint for the world is for us to be co-creators in this world which is not finished. A God who is the God of promises and sustenances and deliverances. And how can we talk about that in our world? That's why our faith is so deeply planted on this earth. That's why you at Main Street do this in spades as you meet here in the midst and at the heart of our town's life. That's why you do things on Thursday. That's why you're starting your Bible studies to gather around the Word, because it doesn't matter how much stuff you know, whether you've read Brueggemann and so on. It matters how close are you to these stories of promise and sustenance and deliverance. And if you think you can't come to the Bible study because you don't know enough stuff, please understand that is not how it works. That's not how it works. All of us are called to be part of that. I'm going to finish with a story, because I haven't 20 minutes, but I'm going to finish with a story. And it's a story which I'm slightly embarrassed, because there's a guy called Jeffrey John who tells a very similar story, but I've looked at when he tells it, and my story comes first. I want to, not Jeffrey John, J. John. And I want you to understand that very, very carefully. But it comes from when I used to have a proper job as an engineer. Okay? And I was leaving my work. And if you've been to Valley Breakfast, you've already heard this, I'm sorry. But and I was leaving the work, and obviously you have to give me notice. And I was a manager in this engineering firm at Sharp. And because I was resigning, people wanted to know why. Now, normally, we worked in mobile phones. Normally, if you were resigning because you knew that the only way to get a pay rise was to move to a different company. So if you work for Sharp like me, you want to go and work for Samsung, or in those days, Nokia, remember that? Or Apple, or something like that. And so people got wind of the fact that I was leaving. And people said to me, why are you leaving? I said, well, I'm leaving engineering because I'm going to be a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm going to be a full-time preacher. And they kind of backed off. I'm an agnostic, get me out of here. You know, this is not the sort of water cooler story that I really want. This is not what I want, Andrew. So I thought, this isn't working, I need something more solid. So there was Ender. Ender had been on holiday, he came back, and he said, Andy, I've been told that you're resigning, but nobody will tell me why. They said that I've got to come and ask you. And I said, well, Ender, I'm going to let you guess. Okay, here's some clues. I'm going to be working for a large multinational. We have outlets in just about every country in the world. We've got schools, we've got coffee mornings, we've got the Citizen Device Bureau, we've got clinics, we've got job creation schemes. I was thinking of Steve Chalk. You know, Paul Wintel's a big fan of Steve Chalk, knows Steve Chalk. This is what Steve Chalk says, actually. That we've got clinics, we've got schools, we've got hospitals, we've got work creation schemes, we've got KRDP. And basically, we're in the business of global reconciliation. And they went, wow. And he said, this is true. This is how the conversation really went. He said, have they got any more jobs going? I said, yes! He said, can you give them my CV? I said, they've already got it. He says, what is this incredible organisation that you're going to work for? And I said, it's the church. It's the one church in all its multicolours, the one church of Jesus Christ. And that's why people want to know. Because our God is not a God who sits on clouds somewhere else. Our God is the God who is known in the midst of our community, in the midst of our lives, at a bedside, in the midst of all of our pain and our suffering and our joys. This crucified God is the one that Paul encountered. This crucified God is the God that Paul would proclaim all of his life in whatever context he found himself. This God who keeps his promises, who delivers us and sustains us. I pray as you go forward into this teaching series, you would have your focus on that God that we are encouraged to know through our lives and through the words of Holy Scripture. Amen.